The strip patching machines will get below the road surface and help address the problems deeper in the road base. The strip patching will serve as a permanent fix to some of our worst spots on our city's roadways. As the mayor said, the strip patching is not a replacement for our resurfacing program this spring. It's in addition to our 2018 resurfacing program that will also become larger. This added investment will allow our projects already programmed and promised to the council to be completed. Our 2018 transportation budget of nearly $88 million includes more work to bridges, sidewalks, and other needed street improvements. Mr. Mayor, Mr. President, I know these funds are coming from the Rainy Day Fund, but let's hope the rain stops so our crews and contractors can do the work that needs to be done to fix our roads and to keep our citizens safe. Thank you very much for your leadership, and I'll open it up for questions for the mayor.
Yeah, I think that in terms of first of all, let me make clear. I think that what we have announced today is the beginning of a long-term commitment and a long-term solution to the problems that we face. But, Rich, your question underscores what truly is a much bigger issue, and that is the folks who advise me tell me that to bring Indianapolis roads back to adequacy is probably at least a $1 billion plus proposition, which obviously is not going to be addressed overnight. Let me give you two ways to look at that larger issue. How do you come up with $1 billion to help Indianapolis maintain its roads, not only in this year, but in coming years? Well, at least I come up with two immediate solutions. First is completely unacceptable, and I will not support, and that is those who suggest that we impose on Marion County residents even greater taxes than are already the case, so that Marion County residents bear the burden alone of fixing what is clearly a decade-old problem that will probably take many years to address. That is unacceptable, and I will not support that. The other option, it seems to me, is to, and I believe that the conversation exists, to look at this issue regionally. Now, many people often suggest that the commuter tax is a solution. I'm not really sure what a commuter tax is. And I think it's a misnomer, because I think it leaves people with the idea that somehow greater taxes will be imposed on those who commute to Indianapolis, when really what we're talking about is having discussions in the Indiana General Assembly, which I am more than happy to participate in, and I would call on our legislators, many of whom, by the way, represent both Indianapolis residents and residents in other contiguous counties. I would encourage a conversation to take place over the long term that might cause the General Assembly to more equitably distribute income taxes that we currently pay. So I guess I'd like to stay away from the notion of a commuter tax as nomenclature, because I think it carries with it negative connotations that somehow we're asking those who drive in and out of Indianapolis, and by the way, there are upwards of 150 million people who do that every day, that they are going to solely bear the burden. No. I think that what Indianapolis and the metro area need is an honest, genuine, and authentic discussion about tax equity and the distribution of income taxes that all residents, Marion County, Hamilton County, Hancock County, Hendricks County, Johnson County, how those income taxes are distributed. I think if there was leadership in the General Assembly, which I'm more than happy to participate in those conversations, and we could have authentic discussions about that issue. Now, admittedly, it doesn't just affect Marion County, right? Because commuters, for example, down in southwestern Indiana, commute from Warwick County into Vanderburgh County, as an example, every day. So it really does need to be a conversation that impacts the entire state. But the truth is, in the Indianapolis geographic region, it is more acute than any place else in Indiana. Sure. Yeah, I'm going to have to defer to our director on that one.
That was 3.5 days, and it was almost $150,000. Well, as we explained in January, that was the earliest we had ever opened the hot asphalt plant. So asphalt companies close down their plants during the wintertime, and we have to use what's called a winter mix, which is not permanent. And part of the reason we did that in January was to try to get ahead of the game in terms of the numbers that were coming in. We knew all along that it was going to get worse if we didn't do anything in January. What we found in some cases was that where we put the hot mix down in January, around it, there was a chuck hole. So literally, the fix became it had a moat around it. So now that the weather's starting to warm up, and we're going to be able to keep the plant open longer, because we were only doing it for 3.5 days, and we did 30,000 holes. We feel like this time, with the temperatures going up and potentially we had to cancel the last one in January, the last day, because the crews had to get prepared for a snow event. So if you could ask all of your weather forecasters, please, do some prayers for us and keep the rain and the snow and the ice away, because the men and women of DPW have not had a weekend off since before Christmas. They've been fighting this every weekend. So that's what happened in January, and that's why this situation is different. And with the mayor's using the funds from the rainy day fund, we're going to be able to add this strip patching that we didn't do in January, which is a more permanent fix, to the equation. Well, what you saw on that video was yes, we follow best practices, and we follow the asphalt is made to NDOT specifications, but that was also, they were throwing into that hole with water what we call that winter mix, which is not a permanent. But we needed to put something in that hole so that people didn't suffer property damage. So drivers are frustrated because they've probably seen our crews fill holes over and over and over again. But because it's wintertime still, we're not being able to put the permanent asphalt in there. With the mayor's putting these funds into our budget, we're paying to open the hot asphalt plant next week. It is not open yet. It is opening specifically for the city of Indianapolis. With the hot asphalt, the holes that are filled, because we're going to have dry weather on Sunday and we're going to have dry weather on Monday, we're going to be able to put the hot mix into holes, and it's going to be permanent.
Some people
Well, there's people over here that can talk better about the science because they're engineers, but when you go from, as the mayor said, -12 one day to 4 days later 50 degrees with an ice event in the middle, the water gets deep down into the pavement and it freezes, and then when it thaws, the pavement crumbles. And it's most drivers think that snow creates the chuck holes. It's not snow. It's the fluctuations in temperature. And some of your weather folks have explained that we've had more fluctuations in temperature this year. We've essentially had 4 or 5 spring thaws already, and it's still February. So usually this problem occurs in March, but for this year, we're dealing with it in January and February, and we're seeing it in the number of chuck holes reported.
Mayor, I have 2 questions for you.
Yeah.
You mentioned yourself that this is a $1 billion problem. Using this $14 million, do you think that that'll be enough for people to really see noticeable change in the roads? My second question is, using this money for this from the rainy day fund, will that affect any of your other projects, the Indy Peacemakers project or your budget overall?
No, in fact, I want to be clear. We already, thanks to the council's support, we have already allocated over $88 million for road improvements. That doesn't include stormwater infrastructure improvements or whatever. It's $88 million just for 2018. What adding the rainy day, the remaining monies in the rainy day funds is on top of that, so that we will ultimately, if passed by the council, we will have over $100 million that we are dedicating to improving the road conditions throughout Marion County in 2018 alone. 2 additional points. It does not affect any other, we're not taking that money away from anything else. It's in the rainy day fund, and it's a rainy day. So we're asking the council to approve the allocation of that money so that it can be used this year. But to your question, and to reiterate what Rich was asking earlier, I'm not standing before you today saying that $100 million invested in our roads in Marion County in 2018 is going to solve the issues. These are issues that are decades in the making, and as I said, in some estimates could cost the city over time more than $1 billion to bring all roads. There are, how many miles of roads are there? Over 8,100 road miles in Marion County alone. So this is an important long-term start. But to reiterate, it probably will take more authentic, genuine discussions about a greater long-term solution if we are to maintain our infrastructure in our city.
To that point, you arrived at that $88 million figure through a rigorous budgeting process. So this request that you're making now, is that the result of new information about the state of the infrastructure, or is that more of the optics of the potholes and the complaints that people have had?
Well, I think we're trying to respond to what has been an unusual winter, where we are experiencing, as Dan just identified, basically spring-like conditions on numerous occasions during the course of the winter, which has made the pothole situation perhaps as acute as it's ever been. Now, it's not just the weather, and it's not just the water and the rain and the usage. This, the conditions of our roads, candidly, is a condition that is decades in the making. So, in answer to your question, James, the $13 million that we're adding to what we've already allocated for roads in Marion County for 2018, again, won't solve the problem, but it's $13 to $14 million in addition that will help us not only in the short term, but this restripping and resurfacing of roads, in addition to the plans that will be announced later this year when we get to construction season that hopefully will make it's not something that will be done this weekend. It is an investment that we are making in Marion County roads and streets for the entirety of 2018.
So that money might get approved March 12th. Would someone be able to give a breakdown of how much of that money would go toward repairs this pothole season versus how much of it will make more longer-term repairs, like the strip patching that's talked about?
Yeah, yes, we could break that down for you. Actually, the importance of this commitment and emptying the rainy day fund this year for a rainy day is an issue, frankly, that transcends potholes. I mean, as Dan indicated, the 4-day blitz that we did in January was $150,000. If we fill potholes all weekend long or all week long, early next week. By the way, I'm told that we're going to have dry conditions Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and that Thursday we may have some rain again. But that gives us three and a half days maybe to fix the immediacy of the issue. But that may be another $150,000 or $200,000 or whatever that figure ultimately may be. What President Osili, the council, and the administration are talking about is investing $100 million or over $100 million just in roads and streets over the course of 2018 for Marion County. Yeah, I would encourage any citizen who has been adversely impacted to exercise the right to file a claim, and I will commit that they will be adjudicated appropriately by Corporation Counsel and by the city. But, you know, and this is advice that Indianapolis residents and, frankly, all of those who don't live in Indianapolis, who use our streets and roads every day, they're already taking what is common sense, and that is, in this time of year, it's encouraged to slow down, take a little bit more time to get to work, always be attentive. We are sensitive to the fact, and that's why our pothole efforts this weekend, I think, are critically important, because I have people come up to me, tell me all the time, hey, during the day, it's an inconvenience, but we can, if we're paying attention, avoid a lot of the problems. But what about at night? I can't see the potholes, and that's where a lot of damage is done. In my car, I had to have a wheel that was bent, and I asked the auto repair guy, how'd that happen? And he said, well, I think you know the answer. So the short of it is, we encourage residents to come forward who have been adversely impacted. We will work with them to try to adjudicate those claims in an appropriate and fair and equitable way. And in the meantime, we'll try to get the hot mix down in those potholes in as many places so that a lot of these problems, at least for the foreseeable future, will be avoided. I'll certainly look at it, yeah.
We have time for one more question, and then we're going to
Well, that would probably take an engineer to talk about, but I'll take at least my, an uninformed opinion, and that is that there is certainly in and around the Marion County area. I've been on the interstates, and I think our governor yesterday acknowledged that the interstates do have problems. Potholes exist on interstates. But the truth is that many of those, well, first of all, there's nowhere near the amount of road mileage in and around Marion County on interstates compared to the road mileage that our men and women of DPW are obligated to take care of. And then secondly, over time, and I'm not, look, I've said several times today that this problem is decades in the making. I'm not saying that to go back in time and blame anyone. The truth is, Marion County and Indianapolis has not had adequate resources or made the kind of investments that are necessary to avoid these seasonal challenges. That's no one's fault. It's completely dependent on the amount of revenue that you have available to you, whether it be federal, state, or local dollars, to address some of these issues. As Dan has confirmed, we have a lot of miles of roads throughout the community. I think for the most part, the roads that have been over the last couple of years that have been part of our construction repair, those roads are completely passable and frankly a joy to drive down. But what we're seeing is roads that have not been addressed or treated, other than cold patch, hot patch in previous years when potholes have occurred. Those are the roads that are experiencing the greatest difficulty. And it won't surprise you to know that many of those roads are not the main arteries, although we have problems with the main arteries. A lot of those roads are neighborhood roads, streets that really don't demand or command the attention that we want to give them. That it? Thank you all for coming. It's been a lengthy discussion. Pray for no rain.
A lot of rain tomorrow night. This is our latest model, and this is spitting out over 3 inches of rainfall by Sunday morning. So, boy, if that happens, we're going to see a lot of flooding here. Saturday, rain, a thunderstorm, 53. A better day on Sunday, sunshine, breezy, 50. And your Chapman Heating and Cooling 8-day forecast. Great weather Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Rain comes back in Wednesday and Thursday. Hard to believe, but maybe some snow flurries here by next Friday. So.